Well, it's 3 o'clock, and I would like to welcome everyone in this very interesting webinar we have this afternoon from 3 to 5. And yeah, with also a very interesting title: "Work like an ant, collaborate like a bee." And this is especially meant for the next phrase of the sentence: insect research collaboration initiatives in Europe. Within the EAAP, lots of activities in the Insect Study Commission are already ongoing, and also new initiatives on collaboration, on working groups, etc. will be highlighted this afternoon. So I really appreciate that you attend this webinar. And first, I would like to go a little bit back to the previous meeting of the annual meeting of EAAP we had last year in Porto. We also had elections there, and this is also the point where I would like to introduce myself, Teun Veldkamp. I'm the past president of the Insect Study Commission of EAAP. And today I am replacing Laura Gasco. She is the current president of the Insect Study Commission, but she couldn't make it today to chair this webinar. So I'm happy to do this for her. We also have a new composition of the study commission since last year. So president is Laura Gasco from University of Turin, Italy. Vice president Anton Gligorescu from Aarhus University, Denmark. Two secretary positions: Christoph Sandrock from Fribourg in Switzerland, and secretary David de Ruiter from Inagro, Belgium. We have three industry representatives: Thomas Lefebvre from Insect, France, Daniel Murta from Entogreen, Portugal, Maria Martinez Castellero from Betterbugs in the UK. And we have three young scientists involved in the study commission: Matteo Ottoboni from the University of Milan, Cassandra Maya from Copenhagen University, Denmark, and Ilaria Biosato from the University of Turin in Italy. So now you all know all people involved in the study commission. So if you have some issues, you always can approach those colleagues in the insect-related topics. Also, in the last meeting in Porto, we suggested from the study commission different topics to be organized in Lyon, and the annual conference this year will be from August 26th until September 1st. And the abstract submission, it's closed now. We received a record number of abstracts, 112. This is really nice. And the abstracts are, you could submit your abstract in different sessions, and the sessions for the meeting in Lyon are insects in sustainable worlds, insect nutrition, and then focusing on the substrates, and insect health, technologies in insect production and controlling quality, insect applications, the legislation, safety and impact on society, insect genetics and reproduction, and there is a project session this year from the project Farming with different presentations. We also have a very nice website from the Insect Study Commission. I copied the main page yesterday, so you can see what's on the front page. So you can search, for example, for scientific publications, news items, and also events will be included here. And you can find all information and background what the Insect Study Commission is working on. And the program for today. So we have started now the introduction, then we will have two presentations, and then followed by a coffee break of 10 minutes approximately. We will see how the program develops. And then we have the last presentation of today, and yeah, we will finalize and with a wrap up around the clock, around 5 o'clock. So very interesting presentations, but I will come to that when I introduce the speakers. Some information for the audience. After each presentation, there is 10 minutes Q&A, so you can raise your questions in the chat. The webinar will be recorded and further be available on the EAAP website in a restricted area, and after 3 months it will be public and available on the official EAAP channel. Stay tuned through the EAAP website and social media accounts for upcoming next events and next webinars. And one of them I would like to mention already now is the next webinar of EAAP, and which will be held on April 18, again at 3 o'clock Central European Time. And the title of that webinar is Better Calves in Better Farms. So block the date to attend also this webinar if you are interested. And yeah, you always can learn more about EAAP by visiting the general website of EAAP on eaap.org. With that, I would like to introduce to you the first speaker for today, which is David. I will unstop share my presentation. David de Ruiter, he will present the European Research Group for insect production. He will introduce this to you. David is an ectotoxicologist with a PhD from Ghent University in Belgium. He has been a full-time researcher at the Insect Research Center of Inagro in Belgium since 2017. He's focusing on research and advice on insect production optimization. He's the co-founder of the European Research Group on Insect Production, EAAP, and he is active in the EAAP Insect Commission, as you have just seen as secretary. He was a former chair of the EAAP working group on the standardization of feed experiments and is currently the chair of the EAAP working group for the bug book. So David, the floor is yours, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much for this nice introduction. Let me share my screen. Yes, this should be visible now for all of you, I hope. I cannot see you anymore, so if there is something, please somebody of the other
David,
presenters.
we cannot see your presentation.
You can't see the presentation?
No.
Okay.
No, the screen is not shared.
Share. Now?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, we can see.
Oh, okay. No idea what happened. But anyway, I'm glad to be here today to introduce to you the European Research Group for Insect Production, or in short, EAAP. Why do we think this organization is needed? Well, if you think about what is the current knowledge of science that is available easily, those are actually only the published articles. Yet, we all know that we do have some well-performed experiments, but that did not result in significant differences, and those are much more difficult to get published. We also have a whole bunch of well-intended experiments that did not end up well, that failed through one reason or another. We have even more ideas of experiments, but that we cannot execute. For example, because we don't have the proper protocol yet, because we don't have the equipment yet. And so there is actually a huge potential of knowledge, and we only have or the rest of the world or the rest of the scientific community has only access to a very limited amount of information. Furthermore, this is not only in your institute or mine, this happens everywhere. You're not alone in that, of course. And we are actually doing a lot of the same things. I have been talking to, for example, Wageningen or DTI or other people, for example, on the smell of black soldier flies. And it turns out that actually we all did very similar results with all very similar outcome that was not very successful. So we repeat the same mistakes. We have also sometimes issues with uncomparable experiments because we don't do them at the same way. There are publication restrictions, as you can see in the end. Do I have a pointer here? Yeah. Even here, in the end, when everything would go right, maybe only 1 in 3 would be published because the others are later than the first one. So how can we solve this problem, this massive waste of expertise, of time and money? Well, we could try to share more information in between. We can share equipment, ensuring less downtime, proper use of the materials. We can combine smaller experiments that happen in different institutes. We can share standard operating procedures or protocols, combine expertise, share unpublished information, share also information, for example, on failed experiments. And if we try to share our information, collaborate, communicate with each other, I'm quite sure that we can actually improve our, the general knowledge, and just ensuring that we do not lose that much information in the whole process to the publication. That is why the European Research Group for Insect Production was founded. Let me just talk a little bit about the origin of that. We actually started talking about it in 2021 in Davos, Switzerland, during an EAAP meeting. And there are 6 core members in the team, being Teun Veldkamp, our chair today, Laura Hasko, the president of the Insect Commission, Sergei Smetana, Christos Athanasiou, Anton Gliorescu, and myself. And then, of course, we had a great deal of help also from Andrea, the secretary of the EAP. We actually launched ERGIP already in Portugal in the last EAP meeting, but at that time, we did not have a website yet. And this is what is my talk about today, is ERGIP is now live, and we do have actually a website and the possibility to become a member of this community, of this organization. When you go to here on top, you can see it, www.ergip.org. You will now normally see this website. If this is not the case, please let me know in the chat. Where you will see, for example, different news, jobs and internships, which can be very important, for example, for students, PhD students that are nearly finishing up to find out other opportunities, but also future webinars and conferences. For example, the summer school of Wageningen. This is actually visible for everyone that will visit the website. Everybody that visits www.ergip.org will see this and will be able to see the news, the jobs, and the webinars or conferences. However, when you would become a member of ERGIP, you will see or have access to much more information. This is the part you will not be able to access when you're not a member. And this is actually the forum, the members database, the project database, the documents database, groups, and suggest content. Those are 6 parts actually that are restricted at the moment for members only. How you become a member, I will talk to you about that in just a minute. Is there a question? No, it's just the link to the website in the chat. Let me just first talk about the members and project database. Why have we included this? Well, if we have a members database, we can actually search for experts in the field. For example, I want to know somebody that has knowledge on mealworms in feed applications, or I want to have an expert in black soldier fly and life cycle analysis. In that way, you can find your peers who do maybe similar things as you and try to communicate with them, Or you can find also, of course, experts in a completely different field. For example, if you want to make a project or reach out for a project proposal. Another part is the database for projects. And this is also important, I think, because a lot of things have already been done. And a lot of those projects, international projects like Session Chain, many people already know Session Chain, but there are a lot of national projects that are just flying below the radar. Sometimes only the information is available in the language of that country. For example, for me, it would be Dutch. And all that information, well, you don't know it exists. When we have a project database with national projects, institute projects, and also, of course, the international projects, we can search for similar ones. If we write a project on feeding black soldier flies to chicken, for example, I can search in the previous projects who has already done similar experiments, or which project has already done similar experiments, reach out to them and try to improve, or maybe, for example, do not make the same mistakes, to assess what happens outside the strict scientific literature. Besides that, of course, you have the forum on the website. And the forum I see more or less as the real heart of the website. The idea of the forum is that people, researchers, can communicate freely and openly about their problems, solutions, questions, and so on. And the forum looks a bit like this at the moment. We have 6 parts in the forum. A general part where you also will find, of course, general information, but also a part, the chit chat, in the sense, if you want to have a break from science and just talk about insects or yourself, introduce yourself, you can go there. We have a forum on production. And in that production, we have 2 subfora also on the EAAP Genetics Working Group and the EAAP Nutrition Working Group. It will be presented later today. My apologies. We have a forum on equipment and technology. This is actually anything in processing, but also equipment used in experiments. On applications, food, feed, technical applications, applications of the FRAS. A forum on sustainability, and a forum currently called Other, being, well, anything else that is not included in the previous 5. This forum is also more or less a living digital organism, in the sense we will see in the future, of course, which forum is used a lot, which forum is not used that much, and we may split or merge different sections, making sure that it is working optimally for the users, for the researchers that are actively using the forum. This is how a single forum looks like for the people that are unaware. For example, in general, you will find different discussions. I made a few already. A read first before you start using the forum. A discussion to mention or note bugs or improvements for the website. How, for example, how you can upload documents, how you can add projects to the website, how to suggest content. This one is important for later on. How to use the forum, for example, is also an important one for people that have not used fora in the past. Besides then the forum and the database for members and projects, we actually also have a part for documents, groups, and suggest content. The documents part, this is, I hope at least, will become a repository. Wow, repository for example, project reports. Something that is not readily published in scientific literature, or not always published in scientific literature, could be posted there so that it's actually available for the scientific community. We also have a part groups. This is actually just to make a private, more or less private discussion group. This is different from the fora. The fora is always visible for everyone. In a group, you can have separate discussions that are not visible for people that are not part of the group. And the last part, suggest content, is a really important one, I think, or really interesting one, in the sense that everybody that is a member of ERGIP will be able to post news, will post webinars or conferences, for example, a closing webinar or closing event for a project, a regional conference, whatever. It doesn't have to be related to EAP, by the way. Everybody will be able to add content to the website. If you have something groundbreaking news, if you're looking for a master student, for example, now on the website is one for Dil, looking for a master student, you can all add it. One thing is that everybody can add it. It will not be visible on the website right away. Somebody of the administrators will have to approve your content or your suggestion. And this is only to avoid spam and, well, actions of, for example, robots or whatever that would clutter the website. So it's not to, so we can have a say like, no, I do not like that webinar, or I don't like that conference. No, it's just to avoid any, well, malicious practices. So besides the website, of course, and we have the fora, we have everything ready. We need, of course, people using it. We need a lot of people using it in order to share that information, to collaborate. We are not able to exchange information without the researchers. So we want you. And who can become a member of ERGIP? You can do it. Actually, it's the European Research Group for Insect Production, but it is not restricted to European researchers. For European researchers, it's a bit easier in most cases. If you are an EAP member, and that is free for many European countries, it's free to become an ERGIP member without any costs attached. When you're outside the EU or Europe in general, you will have to become an EAP member also, and it will cost you 80 euros. But then you can become a free ERGIP member. So ERGIP membership is always free, but you have to be an EAP member, and this is not always totally free. If you would like to become a member today, for example, you can go to the website page, and you have two locations circled in red here to become a member. You just click on the button and fill in the information, and you will become a member automatically. There is no restrictions of who or who can't be a member. Even, for example, if you're a scientist, not really involved in insects, but for example, more involved with chickens or pigs, and just want to stay up to date, you can become a member as long as you are a member of the EAP also. So what does the future hold? Well, I think the core team has made the tools to cooperate. Okay? We made the website, we have the forum, we have the groups, we have the different databases that can be used. But of course, the success will depend on the activity of the members. If there is no activity on the website, of course, then there is no change and there will be no cooperation and improvement. And that's why I have actually already on my last slide, because I hope to have a good discussion on this. I would like to ask all of the people present today, would you consider or not becoming a member? And why not? Especially maybe the why not. The core member or the core team has brainstormed a lot about the idea, but that does not mean it's fixed in stone. Far from it. We want to, or it can be adapted to the needs of the researchers. So I don't know if it's possible, but let's try. Can we have a raise of hands of people that would consider becoming a member of ERGIP? I don't know if I see only the presenters here or everybody. Let me see. I can't see. I don't know. I don't think the public can share. And I have an issue with my computer at the moment. And I can't see the chat anymore.
There is a suggestion.
There, 14.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yes, I see here that, well, 18 already, 21, 24. That's going up nice. So that's nice to know. Maybe for the people that are already knowing that they will not or never become a member, can you share it in the chat why you would not consider becoming a member? I have opened chat now, so I can see it actually. Not a producer. Heidi, that it is not a restriction. It's for researchers. Eh? It's not for production, or it's not necessarily for the industry. I don't know, of course, your background, but just mentioning it's not only for producers. It's not only for. It's certainly not only for the industry. It's really meant for research and for the researchers by the researchers. Then the next question would be like, what would you like to see on the website, or in general, what if you would be a member of ERGIP? Are there things that I have not mentioned yet that you would really like that would be part of the European Research Group, or that we should try to include in the research group? If there is something you think about, you can add it to the website, not a member. Not a member of EAAP and not a producer, only to apply insects, meal and animal feeds. Ingrid, are you from, can I ask you where you are from? UK. Yes, I don't know from EAP and UK, sorry. But Chris Coles, for example, Chris Coles, I do think you can become an EAP member, even if you're not a researcher. In Belgium, and I know if you're from Belgium, becoming an EAAP member is free. And you can thereafter join ERGIP without a problem. I know EAP membership is free normally in the Netherlands, Belgium, France, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, those I know. There are many other countries also that it's actually completely free and open to become a member. Romania, I don't know. Federico, would you know, for example?
Well, they need to check on the website each nationality.
On the website of EAAP, you can find if you're, well, if it's free or not. Yeah, Joseph, the list of research programs, that is actually exactly what the project database is intended to do. So have a list of all projects that have been done or currently ongoing in Europe, or even broader than Europe. As I mentioned, ERGIP has Europe in the name, but it does not mean that we are excluding anybody else. So you can actually, this is the entire purpose of the project database. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Laura, I will do that. So Joseph said, I think it would be great to have a list of websites of relevant research programs, such as insect feed, sustained chain, insect doctors, etc. And actually the project database is intended to do just that. Have a list of the projects. It also includes the websites of the projects if they have one. So it is just, that is the entire intention of the project database. Thomas also mentioned for France, you have to be first a member of the Association France de Zootechnie. Probably my French accent is horrible. Before you can become an EAP member. Are there any other questions regarding, let's say, the ERGIP website? I can actually, or would it be interesting if I go to the website immediately to show you the well, not PowerPoint version? Anton, can you become an EAP member as master student? I think so. It depends a little bit, of course, on your location. It can depend on your location, but I think in many countries it is certainly possible. I hope so, at least, because I hope that this European Research Group for Insect Production will be used a lot by students. Students are a lot of the times the ones with the most questions and the most problems, because they are the ones that actually performing most of the experiments. So I hope we will have an active student community. Heidi, please do show us. I would be good to see up-to-date nutritional profile for insects, nutritional tables, which formulators could use. I don't know if the last part is actually well, will fall within the scope of ERGIP. But we could have a discussion on that in the forum. I will just close my, quickly close my PowerPoint and open the website. Again. Voila. We'll just quickly read the other questions first before I go to the website itself. Juan Jose, I have registered now. Thank you very much. And I agree. I think it's important to influence the European Commission so more insect projects are financed. As a researcher, of course, I agree. This for sure. Felix, would it be possible to waive the membership cost for people from Colombia? I am unfortunately, I don't think that will be possible, Felix. The EAP has a fixed price for everybody that is not within Europe, and this is also something we, as a, let's say, sub-organization within EAP, can change anything about that. Maybe in the far future, when we would have a lot of sponsorships, for example, if a company would listen today, it may be possible, but at this point, it's not possible. Joseph, how will ERGIP handle companies that want to participate, be members, in case of researchers from, also in case of researchers from companies? Everybody is free to join. It is a research organization, of course, but that does not mean that companies are excluded, and certainly not people from the R&D from companies. We also want to collaborate with them still. We're not against the industry, far from it. So we would welcome them for sure. The difference is we're not an IPIF, of course, so we're not an active organization for the industry. Chris Coles asks, is a wiki a possible valuable extension? You may need to provide more information on that. I do not entirely understand your question, Chris. Francois, if I say it correctly, do you know about SAFE, the Center of Environmental Sustainability through Insect Farming? It has some similarities. I did not. I will certainly check it out later. Thank you for letting me know. Chris, wiki like build a Wikipedia. Do you mean then just the basic information on insects, or like the something like that, like the black soldier fly needs this, this, and this? Chris? Start with the glossary. I think there are two things, Chris, that, well, first of all, it would be interesting, but there are already several projects ongoing to have a similar tool. First of all, if you want to have general information on insect rearing, there are already a few good books, amongst which one was written by Tun fairly recently. And for research purposes, we are now building a consortium, or we have a group already to write a bug book, which will be more or less it's a collaboration of 40 researchers to start writing a book with different methodologies inside. I don't want to say too much yet because it will come further in the day. But for the people that want to see the true website, so this is actually when I logged in, it already changed a little bit with the pages you saw earlier. This is because some news came true. For example, the European Congress of Entomology. So as I mentioned, it should not be all related to EAP. We have the jobs and internships, for example, for DIL, the master thesis. We have the webinars and conferences. I am logged in at the moment, so we can actually go to the forum, the memberships page, projects, documents, groups, and suggested content. At the bottom, you can actually see the recent activity. For example, Antonella has become a member a minute ago. Thank you, Antonella. Together with Eva, Thomas, Josef, Juan Jose. So actually already a lot of new members. Evocon, Francois, he says there is another reference, evoconsis.com. It's a private initiative which implements some of the proposed services, such as a forum. This one actually I do know, Francois. I am actually, Inagro is also actually part of it. But this is on, if I'm not mistaken, it is on invite only. So it is not free for all researchers to become a member, if I'm not mistaken, unless they changed. If we go, for example, to the projects database, you're welcome. Can you publish? Chris Coles asks, can you publish news automatically on a Twitter? Not at the moment, but maybe we can include it in the future. This is certainly maybe a possibility. I'll also have to ask the website builder, Carlo, which has done already a fantastic job, but I don't know what is possible technically. If you see on the website, I don't know if you see my mouse pointer. I hope. Already a few projects have been entered. Not a lot, of course. Yeah, we were with just a small core team, so I hope a lot will join. For example, if you add a project, it will ask you, well, the title and the acronym, but it will also ask a short summary. Well, is it international, national institute, the funding agency, region, species, research fields, the partners, keywords, but also, for example, the website, and here below the members. So you can add members of ERGIP to that project, to that specific project. So if people look for a project, they click on the project, they also see who has been active on that project within ERGIP. So this is easily then, so in that way, it is actually very easy to connect to people. The same actually can be done when we go to the members area. So now we have 15 members. And for example, we see here Juan Jose, we have Antonella. You can connect to the people if you want, but you can also send them actually a private message. So I can click on this. Juan Jose, I will use you, for example, as an example. And in that way, you can connect to the people. Write a short message. For example, I have found you via a project. That is interesting. And so on, and so on, and so on. And send it, and Juan, he will receive it in his post package. What you also can do is search for members based on, well, currently it's based on species and field of expertise, as you can see here. It's quite a long list of field of expertise. If you feel we have missed something very important, let us know, of course. But in that way, you can actually search for specific experts. For example, if you want to include them in a project, or you want to ask a specific question on a, for example, how do I do a mealworm experiment with mealworm reproduction experiments? So, and by that time, my time is up, more or less. And I think also the questions have stopped in the chat. So I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor to the next presenter.
Yes, thank you, David, for a very nice overview showing the development of EAAP in time and presenting the website with all details. So very good, and hopefully a lot of people will join EAAP and enter the website. Nice in time. Thanks a lot, David. And with
You're welcome.
I introduce the next speaker. On the topic, the introduction to the group of insect nutrition and the bug book initiative, Moritz Kolf. Moritz is senior researcher at ETH Zurich. He's passionate about resource recovery-based management of waste and side streams in the food system. He currently supervises 2 black solid fly projects in Zurich and Singapore. Moritz has an MSc in environmental engineering and a PhD in food science, and his main interest in the production of solid fly larvae on low value waste by understanding nutritional requirements and the association with microbes, as well as technology innovations. The floor is yours, Moritz.
Thank you, Teun. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also gonna share my screen and hope everything is gonna work out. 1 second. Can you see my screen, Teun?
Yeah, it's presenting mode. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I'm a senior researcher from ETH. I'm presenting 2 initiatives today. So one is the group of insect nutrition, and the other one that was already mentioned before also is the bug book. And before going into a bit more details on these very new initiatives, I'm going to describe a little bit the challenges or the problem that are sort of the underlying basis of forming these initiatives. So similar to other livestock production systems, poultry, pigs, the feedstock or the side streams, the waste is really at the basis of the production of edible insects. And one of the challenges that we face as researchers, but also in production, is variable performance, so feed conversion rates, but also product quality, so protein, fat contents, then for feed applications or for biotechnology applications. So these variability depending on the food substrates for the insects. And here on this side, you see different formulations of side stream mixtures, which had similar protein and carbohydrate contents. And as you can see here, we still had very different bioconversion rates, high variability. And this is obviously undesired for this production process. And we see similar variability between different rearing days of feeding batches, when also on the product characteristics or separability of the products. So there's a lot of sort of issues associated with the feedstock, and especially when we use variable low value side streams, so not materials that can already be used directly as animal feed. And how do we handle this in conventional livestock farming? So this is a slide that was provided by Guido Bosch from Wageningen University and Research, which is something that members of EAAP are very familiar with, the feed evaluation system. So looking, okay, what is the required nutrients, vitamins, and so on for the different species, depending on the growth stage, and then trying to match this with the properties of the feed ingredient, the feed material, while understanding very well the digestive capacities of the animal. So the digestive capacity, the physiology, what happens in the different parts of a digestive tract of a poultry or a pig or ruminant is very well studied. If we now look at this as someone from the edible insect field, as a researcher, or as someone in industry, we're having a lot of question marks here. So I'm depicting here the black soldier fly larvae, but this is just an example. This also applies for other edible insects, the mealworm, the locusts, that we don't really know what are the requirements of the larvae, depending on the different life stage, depending on different species. We're working with very variable raw materials. So in comparison, variable materials, but also materials where we don't know digestibilities and so on. So in livestock farming, you will have your feed tables for feed ingredients, and you know very well what quality of material you're working with. And that's something that we're lacking. And the same, we have a basic understanding of the digestive capacities of the insect. So this is something that's growing, but where we still at the beginning in comparison to conventional livestock farming. And there's other sort of issues that I want to highlight. One is, which was mentioned also before, is that methods are lacking. They're also a little bit more complicated in my view. So I want to just highlight that here, looking at, again, the black soldier larvae as an example. So this larvae feeds in its feed. So the excreta also goes into the feed that it's eating. So for example, determining fecal digestibility, that's common in livestock farming, is a lot more complicated because you can't collect the feces separately. So there's an attempt we had in our lab where we sort of connected a diaper to the larvae to collected fecal digestibility with, I would say, mixed results. There's also a recent paper that was estimating digestibility. But what I want to highlight with this is like that we're really at the beginning to, even in terms of methods, how do we actually determine digestive capacities? How do we determine digestibility of different raw materials used for rearing of edible insects? This is a paper that I suggest you also can look up from 2019, where different authors and colleagues highlighted that there's a lack of standardization in black soldier fly larvae studies, but this also applies to other insects, that there's no standardization of performance metrics used. There's no standardization on environmental metrics used. There's no standardization on the substrate or the feed analysis and the product analysis, which makes cross comparison among studies quite difficult, which would be needed to do sort of more meta-analysis or connecting the dots between different groups. Another thing that's maybe different for edible insects than for conventional livestock, that's something for you to judge, I think. I'm not necessarily an expert on conventional livestock farming. There's a strong interaction between the microbiology and insect farming. Sometimes I wonder who is working for whom, if we're rearing insects in a microbial environment, or actually we are rearing microbes for our insects. So as you can see with the picture before, the larvae of the black soldier fly, as an example, sit in this feed substrate, which is very wet, and it's typically a side stream or waste. So it's full of different strains of bacteria, viruses, and so on. And there's a strong interaction between the feed and the insect. So you have microbes in the digestive tract, you have microbes in the substrate, in the feed, but they're interconnected because the excreta goes into the feed. We know, so this is this colorful picture here on the right side, we know that there is a big influence of the substrate on the microbial community. So the different colors here should basically just highlight that depending on the diet you feed, you get different microbes in the digestive tract, and similar to livestock or to humans, the microbes in the gut have a big influence on the animal, and not only in terms of nutrition, but also in terms of immunity, fighting pathogens. There's a relationship obviously between genetics, something that we're going to hear in a later talk today. So looking at nutrition requirements of insects, edible insects without the mycology would be probably falling short in making things a little bit more complicated. And then, as mentioned before, in terms of physiological foundations, processes, we're also at the beginning. So there's now more and more research coming in the last years, but just understanding what is the influence of the diet on the physiology of the gut, what is the physiology of the gut, what enzymes are present, and so on, are really important pieces that are currently lacking or insufficient or not well coordinated between different players in the European Union. And then, as mentioned before, also we're working with side streams, or waste, which are intrinsically variable. This is the nature of side streams and waste. It's not a soy or a corn or another feed ingredient that you can look up a feed table, and it's a commodity that is pretty well standardized, at least within countries. We're having between different side streams very different nutrient content. So here as an example, carbohydrates and protein. And in this graph, you see the protein content of 39 different agri-food byproducts. So you see they have a huge variability, and this is only crude protein. So if we then go into, okay, what is the digestibility of the protein? What are limiting amino acids within these side streams that could be used for edible insect farming? You can see that even if we would understand the digestive capacity of the insect, there's a lot to standardize or to learn on the provision of nutrients to edible insect farming. So with this, I just wanted to show sort of what are the challenges that these two initiatives that I was mentioning are based on, the Group of Insect Nutrition and the Bug Book. What we like to do is probably very similar to what livestock nutritionists or the EAAP members have been done 20, 30, 40 years ago for other livestock species. So that's why this is a very good opportunity for us to also reach out to you, and we would definitely like to build this work on what was done for other animal species. So a bit on the Group of Insect Nutrition. So it's a very new group. So in comparison to David, we don't have any actually outputs to show. We have many ideas, we have many questions, more than we can answer at the moment. We were formed after the Insects to Feed the World conference last year in Quebec in Canada. And we had a few meetings online. In general, our meetings are online. So I think we'll have probably every 3 months an online meeting. Currently, we're forming the group. So we're looking who is interested. And there is big interested. I'm going to go into a questionnaire that we completed a few weeks ago. So before that, the goals that we have is to connect researchers working on nutrition around insects. And we're currently also discussing internally how much we want to include industry partners. So that's something that we'll, I think, define in the next month. We would like to summarize the state of the art of insect nutrition. So similar to David's comment, there's a lot around. It's probably also about networking and connecting the different players of the different European Union countries. And then the core is determining nutritional requirements with the ultimate goal also to increase digestive capacities of the insects and looking towards producing beneficial compounds. So this is protein and fat for feed. But also could be biotechnological applications, could be other compounds, molasses, and antimicrobial feeds with enriched antimicrobial peptide concentrations and so on. So we also believe that protein and fat is the current value of those insects, but there's more to come, and both for food and feed. So I mentioned a lot on the black soldier fly, but that's just because that's the insect I'm working on. but the group is looking at all insects currently within the legal framework in the European Union. So we recently had a little questionnaire to sort of gauge the interest and the representation of these group of insect nutrition. So we got answers from 18 different institutions across the European Union. So if we then count the numbers of people within those research groups, I came to around 40-50 researchers that are interested in this topic and interested to contribute to this group. We also cover the entire group of edible insects currently considered in the European Union as food and feed. So yellow mealworm, house cricket, locust, then the flies, so the black soldier fly and the housefly, lesser mealworm, and also crickets. And the background is quite broad that we have. So it's insect rearing and breeding, but also animal nutrition, processing of the product, analysis methods, insect behavior, insect physiology as a foundation, and then also research groups focusing on FRAS, on microbial communities, and on product safety. So as I sort of mentioned in the outline, we're looking at it as nutrition beyond just protein and carbohydrates and vitamins. We try to take it a bit broader, including also, for example, genetic aspects. So where are we heading currently? So we're currently don't have any funding for this group. It's all based on contribution by the individual members. We're thought the best thing is to get a joint project together, to have some funding. And we're currently looking in the direction of a cost action proposal, which would fund meetings, trainings, mobilities of researchers, presentation at conference between the members. So for example, it would also allow to review the existing work on other livestock species and on insect species, but this would not fund any research itself on insect nutrition. It would be more like a networking tool. So that's what we're currently mostly working on. So if you have any ideas of additional funding, or you would be part of this cost action initiative, please reach out. Please reach out to me. So this is, I think, all I wanted to cover on the insect nutrition working group. So as you can see, it's quite fresh. We're still forming. And we're looking for members, so please reach out to me if you're interested and join one of the next calls. Then moving to the Bug Book initiative, which is the second initiative, but very well connected to the group of insect nutrition, because it's trying to address some of the challenges that the group of insect nutrition also is aiming to address. So the Bug Book, which is about writing a book, was established at the EAAP conference in Porto in 2022, and it was a follow-up of the EAAP standardization working group that David was leading. And the goal of this book is to summarize the state-of-the-art methods and practices. So as I mentioned, there is a lot of methods around, there's a lot of practical work being done, but it's the methods are not aligned. Groups have different methods that they use. They also often have to reinvent the wheel. They start from scratch. So the goal is to summarize those methods that are currently existing within the European Union, and also add new methods that should be used. And the goal is really that new researchers, including students, master student, PhD students, but also I would say also industry, has a starting point for methods to use. And ultimately, this should avoid making mistakes, and it should work towards comparability of different results. So if we have currently a lot of research coming out of this field, but comparability is often tricky because different methods are being used. So where are we with this book? So we're inspired by books in other fields of entomology. So, for example, the bee book that exists, which is summarizing standard methods for research on bees. And there's also something for like a summary of methods for the worm book. So these are existing resources that we're going after. Where are we with this initiative? So we've gathered 440 researchers, not 440 researchers within Europe and Canada that are interested to contribute to this book. There was an outline created with different topics. So similar to my introduction, the scope is quite broad, from managing a lab colony to analysis of substrates, to microbial communities, to analysis of the product. So both larvae and frass, but also then pilot scale testing, so working towards industrial trials. These we think should all be part of this standardization book. In terms of publication, where can such a piece be published? We're in touch with Wageningen academic publishers to look into opportunities of publishing there. But similar to the Group of Insect Nutrition, is an unfunded project, so we're relying on the contribution of the different members. They're providing their time pro bono. So there's currently also no deadline that we can say, okay, by this date, the book's going to be finished and it's going to be published. So as usual, shout out if you have any ideas on funding for such a book. Also, if you want to contribute to the book, please reach out to us. So with this, I would like to close this contribution. I hope you have a lot of questions. If you're interested to join any of the groups, if you have any questions on the Group of Insect Nutrition, you can either contact me or Dennis Onyx from Wageningen University and Research, who is leading the Group of Insect Nutrition. So I'm representing him today. And on the bug book, you can contact David, who you've heard before me. So he has also his email. So if there's any questions on these two initiatives beyond what we can answer in this webinar today, please reach out to us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Moritz, for a very nice overview of the work you are doing in the working group on nutrition, insect nutrition. Yeah, you showed also the cost network and also the initiative for the bug book, the first ideas, and I think we can discuss this. So if anyone has questions, please put the questions in the chat.
So we only got one point, was someone will like to join the group. So that's great. Thank you. Please reach out to me or to Dennis, and we can add you to the mailing list for the next meeting.
Yeah. I don't see any other questions. We can wait maybe a minute. Maybe some questions will come up. We have time. There's a question here, Moritz, from Leo. I'm editor-in-chief of Entomologia Experimentalis, a Applicata. Are there any current topics that would qualify for a special issue? Please contact me if you have suggestions.
Ooh, there's probably a lot of relevant topics in the world of edible insects. So I'm not sure if there was a question or a general comment to the.
But it's good remind for everyone.
Yeah.
So if there are any
so
topics.
Leo, we're definitely grateful for that suggestion. So it maybe goes to everyone on the call. If there's any topics, contact Leo at this journal, as he's chief editor.
Yeah. No more questions are Oh, there is one other. What will be the limits of the bug book? Is it rearing oriented or also focusing on experimental practices, physiology, genetic studies, etc.?
I think to be decided. David, maybe you can also jump in here.
For the bug book, there is a focus on research in the sense of it will be research practices, or for example, protocols on how to perform a feed experiment, as we have done for the standardization of BSF feed experiments. It will be in part also rearing. There will be a part on rearing, just because we have to inform new people on how to maintain a lab colony in a healthy state, for example. But the main focus will be actually on the experimental practices. So how do you look at the reproduction of tenebrio? How do you do feed experiments with black soldier flies? How do you properly assess the fat and protein content? How do you what is in there? How do you determine the microbiology in the gut of a black soldier fly? Are just a few that are on the top of my mind that should be or would be included. Maybe not all of them in the first version, because as Moritz said, it's all pro bono, and maybe not all topics will be included in the first part. But in the end, we want to have a really like a big book, a Bible, to be used in the laboratory.
And maybe also to add on that, Laura, so physiology, genetics, I think if this becomes a part of it, it will depend a little bit on if we have if we have authors within our network that are willing to contribute those parts. So they're very, I think, important points, physiology in genetics. So if you're interested or if you know someone, please get back to us. Yeah.
That's indeed a very important point. We need experts to write something before it can be included in the book.
There's an additional remark in the chat. Many of these questions are still not very well answered in the literature, so I imagine the bug book would be regularly updated.
I mean, so I know I've worked on a standardization book for wastewater, and it would be great to update them every year or every 6 months, because that's how quickly experimental methods change and develop. But as you can see, with the number of topics and the number of researchers involved and it being pro bono, it should be regularly updated, but it probably won't. So
yeah, looking forward to follow the progress. Yeah. With that, thank you very much, Moritz, for your presentation.
Thank you.
So we start again. Anton is also, yeah, you all enjoyed the coffee break. And I will introduce our last speaker in the webinar, Anton Grigorescu. He is an innovative and strategic industrial entomologist and specialized in black soldier fly production for food, feed, and non-food applications. He's currently enrolled as a PhD student at Aarhus University, Denmark, and investigating the impacts of domestication on BSF. And he's initiator of the insect genetics group. And previously, he has led and been involved in a series of research and development projects aimed to optimize black soldier fly reproduction and rearing. And some of those projects are, for example, recipe, fly scent, and Wise for Soil. The title of his presentation is Forming Insect Genetic Working Group, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Devon, for such a nice introduction. I'll give a talk about one of the initiatives that we had at the EAAP. Let me just see if I can share my screen with you. Do you see this?
Yeah, it's presented in mode. Yes.
Perfect. So I'll give a talk about forming insect genetic working group. And I can start saying that this initiative was actually proposed last year during the EAAP meeting in Porto. And we had a lot of people being interested in it. But I would also like to say why we thought about that. So, I mean, for the past years, the insect industry upscaled quite fast. The same went for the research, and the same went for funding opportunities and so on. And a lot of studies were published since 2017 or so on insect genetics. However, there is a lot of things to be researched in this regard, and there is a lot of opportunities. So we thought that maybe creating an insect genetic group under the EAAP, looking at approved species to be used in European insect sector, will be quite an interesting opportunity. So this is how we came on this insect genetic, and the idea was to create this, platform for collaboration on genetics of farm insects, develop R&D projects together, disseminate some of the research results, exchange research idea and compare results, if any, and of course having a scientific open dialogue on the genetics of insects in general. Some of the focal areas that we thought of could be classical breeding of farm insects. We believe in the future, maybe if we are successful, we will end up having a Belgian insect, a Belgian blue insect, so to speak. But also looking at genetics and genomic selection for farm insects. G-by-E interaction, we know that those insects are highly affected by environment, and when I'm saying environment, it's both the feed, but also the abiotic factors such as temperature and humidity and so on. So looking at this is quite interesting. Looking at what will be the impact, what is the impact of domestication and on the genetic variation of those insects. That's something that I'm actually very interested in proceeding with my PhD now. And of course, looking at conservation of genetics. I mean, we are talking about very recent domesticated species, such as black soldier flies, for example. And conserving their genetic diversity might be quite an interesting approach to take. That's some of the focal areas that we thought of in the group. But of course, if you are interested in joining this, you should make it yours as well. So be free to come up with any ideas that could be suitable. So far, we are 5 members, Christoph Sandrock, David, Weil, Francesco, and myself. We all have discussed for the past year this insect genetic group, and we think it's a very, very good idea. We have different species of interest that we work with. Maybe not all of them represented here, but that's the founding members. And the idea, the structure of it is to have a governance which has to be defined. That's up to be defined now. We have a website. We agreed with the funders of the EAAP website that we can use this website for the insect genetic group. So I have created this insect genetic group now. So if any of you is interested in joining, you are welcome to send me a request and I will approve it. And then we also have a forum on insect genetic working group under the same EAAP website. It's a free membership, but requires that EAAP registration, the same as David mentioned earlier. So you have to be a member of EAAP to be able to join the insect genetic group. Activities could be that we have member meetings, for example, every second month or so. Presentation of laboratory equipment, research, and whatsoever could be one of the focal areas of those meetings. Research discussions, And then, of course, you can use this insect genetic group for networking and matching when it comes to insect project initiatives or proposals. So yeah, having some webinars once in a while, if any. We have so far got about 13 letters of support from different industrial partners. Industry is always welcome. I think it's very important that we all collaborate, no matter the interest or the background. For me, an open science initiative is always the best and ideal approach. There was a high interest during the last EAP, as I mentioned, and now the membership is open through EAAP. So that was my very short presentation on the insect genetic initiative. Thank you very much, and I am very open for questions.
Thanks a lot, Anton, for the presentation of the genetic work group and how to contact, how to be a member, and how to bring in your own vision and what should be the action points in the topic of genetics. So nice. Please, if you have questions, you can ask them in the chat.
Maybe I should ask a question. Is there anyone of you interested in joining this initiative?
Yeah, I see here. Yes. Just more clarity on how the industry could collaborate. So that's maybe a good one to.
Yes, that's a very good question. I think. Thanks for the question, Thomas. Well, in principle, I mean, any research-oriented industry is able to collaborate. For example, if we have project initiatives that we develop, maybe if the industry is interested to join us, then we can definitely do that. Or if the industry is interested in finding specifics related to genetics on a specific species, then we can also have more one-to-one collaborations in that regard. So it's a very open access platform, so to speak, when it comes to collaboration, really.
So for those who are interested, you showed already how to be involved in the group.
Yes, obviously. I mean, if there is a research question that one of the industry has, I mean, and you have let's say a database of scientists that can provide them with a solution or help in that regards, then maybe they can collaborate. So it's networking and matchmaking. It's one of the part of this group.
Yeah. Some time for other questions. Yeah. Will the group be convening at EAAP or other conferences?
Yeah, so the group is a part of the EAAP, of course, and we will definitely try to include as much as possible of the group activities on the EAAP. So yes, when it comes to other conferences, if that will be relevant in the future, I think that will also be the case. For example, if you have an extended collaboration between insect genetic members, then you can have a joint, so to speak, publication that can be presented to another conference.
Maybe it's also interesting to mention that there will be a genetics session at the EAP this year in Lyon.
Yes.
Which, from what I saw, was filled quite well.
Yeah, it's fully booked, so to speak. Well, I mean, in principle, we had insect genetics sessions for the past 3 years or so under the EAP, if I recall it correctly. So this year is not an exception from that. Insect genetics is a very, very hot topic in this new industry, and a lot of people are interested in insect genetics and reproduction.
Yeah. So you can see it in the number of submitted abstracts. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yes.
Maybe it's a good time maybe to ask from the people that are present here if who already knows if they would come to EAP.
There is another question from
sorry.
Thomas. What are the relations with AGS, another group of insect genetics? There is no relation so far with AGS. We haven't actually took in contact with them. But again, anyone, no matter if they are a group of another association or organization, they are welcome to join. As long as you have a membership in the EAP, this is free to join opportunity. So why not? Just looking at
and there's a question on registration for the meeting, and that's the EAP meeting. So you can go to the website EAP2023.org. I think it's the correct website. Then you are directly in the EAP annual conference of Lyon. Maybe you can check, David. Is it EAP2023.org?
I'll check.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is correct, Teun.
Okay.
Okay, Andrea. Yeah. Yeah.
The registrations are closed. The submissions for abstracts are closed, though.
Yeah. So you can register for the attending the conference.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is still an opportunity to register that early bird, so to speak, until, if I remember correctly, 1st of June. So
yeah. So with that, and there are no more questions, then I think we are at a moment to close the webinar by thanking the speakers in this webinar, Anton, David, and Moritz. Many thanks to you, and also very good to see the interaction via the chat. Many questions, and I really like related to the title of this webinar, collaboration. So you see in different groups, different initiatives to stimulate collaboration, and I think this is essential to bring the insect sector a further step forward. And at the end, I would also like to mention again the next EAP webinar, which is on April 18 at 3 o'clock Central European Time, on the topic Better Calls in Better Farms. So anyone who is interested can register for that webinar. And yeah, already raised by David, we are, and this is from all of us, on behalf of all of us, we hope to welcome you, of course, in Lyon this year, in August, September. So last week, August, September, and really looking forward to seeing you there, meeting you there physically, and hope to see you at the next webinar. So thanks a lot for attending and your contribution to this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Teun, for sharing it.
Thank you, Teun. Bye, everyone.
thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone. Thank you all for attending.